What's up, Rio Rancho? I'm Kevin Hendricks. I'm the editor of the 528, and we have our very first podcast guest at the 528. And who better than longtime Mayor Gregg Hull? Welcome to the studio. Nice to see you, sir.
Great to see you, Kevin, and it's always a pleasure to be here. And hey, being a part of the inaugural show, I love that.
Yeah, perfect.
That's fantastic.
I couldn't think of a better guest because you've been mayor for a long time in Rio Rancho since
Yes.
before I moved there, 2014, right? Tell me about, you told me this story before, but remind me what election night was like for you the first time you were elected.
So, there were two election nights. There was the election night where I didn't quite clear the hurdle, the 50% hurdle. Right, came in at 44% in a five-way race, and that threw me into a runoff. But when we went through the runoff, won with 65% of the vote, and I actually had a church service that night. Went to church and said, well, whatever happens, we'll find out later. And went to a watch party later that night. Got there and we walked through the door and people were like, congratulations, Mayor-elect Hull. And I was like, wait, what's happened here? Yeah. And found out that I had been elected and won with 65% of the vote. And it was one of those things that was very surreal. It was, it took a while to sink in, right? Because I was just this guy, this community citizen that decided to run for mayor.
You weren't a politician at this point.
No political background whatsoever. Absolutely, just decided to run for mayor one day, right? And won. And I'm driving home with my wife, and I looked at her and I said, "What have we done?" She said, "No, what have you done?" so Carrie kind of put me in my spot there, but the work started right there, right? And so we got up the next morning, and I headed to City Hall, started the transition process, and man, it was hit the ground running because after a runoff, there are a lot of things that you have to take care of almost very immediately because if you're elected in the regular election, you've got some lead up time. If you're elected in a runoff, you've got like 10 days because you've got budgets that are due and all kinds of things. So you've got 10 days to opine on a budget.
It's a shorter runway for sure.
Oh, a much shorter runway, yeah. A lot to do.
And you had a lot of work to do. The City Hall that you work in now was a lot different 12 years ago, right?
It really is. The City Hall is very different. We've got... I'm going to say we've probably got the best staff we've ever had. A city manager, deputy city manager. We've just seen so much of these different changes. We've got a great police chief. We've got a great fire chief. We've seen tremendous growth in those departments. And of course, we've seen a lot of growth in development services. We've got a tremendous leader there with Amy Rincon that helps us kind of move the city forward. She's a young lady that grew up in Rio Rancho, went off to college, planning school, came back to Rio Rancho, and now she's the development services director. That's kind of in charge of so some real legacy individuals right in the state of New Mexico. So it's fantastic.
How hard was it to leave to run for governor and to just say, I've done, that's enough, time for another step?
It was a very difficult decision, but at the same point in time, you've done 12 years as the mayor of the fastest growing city in the state, now probably the second largest city in the state. You've been there doing that for 12 years. And could I have probably run and won another term? Yeah, most likely. But I just really felt like it was time to step back and let that next era of leadership step in and see what they could do. I mean, we've done a lot. We've accomplished a lot in the city of Rio Rancho, but now it's time for some new ideas. And at the same point in time, I was approached by numerous individuals to think about and just really give deep consideration to running for governor. Yeah. And so at first blush, it was no, not really on the bucket list. And then I thought to myself, wow, that's exactly what I said when I ran for mayor the first time. not on the bucket list.
Last question for you. I know we got a little time crunch, but is there, I know you got dry set on Santa Fe in the governor's mansion right now, but is there a scenario in the future where you're the mayor of Rio Rancho again?
I never say it's never impossible. There could be a scenario. We've seen it happen before where Tom Swistak left and then came back and he was the mayor again. So I'm not going to say no to that, but at this point, my my thought would be is, I've been the mayor for 12 years. I'm proud of what we did, and it's time to move on. So it's not immediately on the radar, but I never say never, as they say out there. But that is not really contention at this point in time.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time. That's it with Mayor Gregg Hull, maybe soon to be future Governor Gregg Hull.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.